Maine Congresswoman Chellie Pingree is just back from visiting 4 nations in the Mideast: Iraq, Afghanistan, Bahrain, and Kuwait. And we are very pleased that Congresswoman Pingree is joining us live tonight to share some of her observations about the trip. Welcome home.
Thank you very much.
I know you're still a bit jet lagged.
A little bit tired, but I'm glad to be back.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
I know while you were over there, you had the opportunity to meet with Maine troops, U.S. troops. What were some of your thoughts after meeting with them?
Well, first you can say no matter how you feel about our involvement over there, people do an amazing job. I mean, I sat with troops who have been on 2nd and 3rd deployments. I sat and had lunch one day with a young woman with 3 children. She and her husband were both deployed in Iraq, and the children were staying home with the grandparents while they were serving the country. It's amazing, and people are working very hard. On the other hand, we were there, many of us members of the Armed Services Committee, to really figure out how do we do the drawdown in Iraq, what's the situation in Afghanistan. For me, only having been in office in 6 weeks, but serving on armed services, it was my first time to really get a feel for what's going on over there and ask some probing questions in a whole variety of briefings we were able to have.
Well, how does being there make a difference in terms of your ability to make some of those decisions?
You know, you can sit through top secret briefings and look at charts and previews in Washington, and it's nothing like being there and seeing the situation, the chaos of Afghanistan, some of the improvements that we've made in Iraq, and the feeling that maybe a few troops could start to go home a little more quickly than they've been moving. But just to be able to ask people firsthand, you know, what do you think? How could we change this? For me, I know I'm going to ask much tougher questions when I get back, and it's going to be easier to make some very difficult decisions having been there.
Well, did you change your mind on anything or become more focused on what you'd like to accomplish soon in the near future?
Well, for me, it was clear that we could start moving troops out of Iraq and that we have some serious challenges in Afghanistan. I am still worried about moving into Afghanistan at increased troop levels because I don't want to see us in the same situation when we were in Iraq, without a clear end goal, without putting enough people in there who are actually helping to rebuild the civil society and some of the things that also have to go along with just military force. But I felt like I had more information to reinforce that. I was able to ask questions of people about, you know, what does it take to move a tank from here to there, and why aren't we doing it faster? It was very useful to me, and I think it reinforced some of my opinions, but also just gave me a lot more information to ask good questions when I'm back in committee.
And you met with commanders, both U.S. forces and Mideast forces. Do they share anything in common?
I think a great dedication to making things work. I mean, our forces are certainly dedicated to training the local forces on the ground. They have, you know, very serious programs of training. And I met with a lot of people who are also helping to train the police. The police system, particularly in Afghanistan, doesn't really exist. I will say it was very moving, particularly many of the commanders and generals who are devoting so much time to this, but are also really concerned about what we do about the civilian population, you know, how to rebuild the society. I'll tell you, when I met with the commander in Afghanistan in the situation that was just bombed with a suicide bomber a couple of weeks ago, he started out the conversation by telling one of the stories from 3 Cups of Tea, you know, the Greg Mortensen book about rebuilding schools in the mountains of Afghanistan and Pakistan. And honestly, he was telling us, here's a military commander saying, you know, I've been learning a lot about the importance of listening to the people and about thinking about rebuilding the society and about the importance of minimizing civilian casualties. You know, that's a big issue for us over there, is making sure that we keep the people of the country on our side as we're in there with a military presence, something we didn't do as well in the last round in Iraq.
All right. Well, it sounds like it opened your eyes a lot and was a valuable experience, and thank you for sharing it.
Thanks for having me.
Congresswoman Pingree, and we're following several stories for the second half hour of Live at 5. Here's Kylie Bennett with more on that.